Hey everyone, it's Joe Beethoven, and I am so excited to say that I am here to give you my masterful analysis of an Alan Wake 2 trailer that is actually about Alan Wake. That's right, our boy finally has his time in the spotlight. I don't know if you could tell, but I am smiling as I record this. As I said in my reaction video, this is genuinely one of the greatest trailers I have ever seen, and it has raised my hype level for Alan Wake 2 beyond 11 and all the way to 1000. Seriously, Remedy knocked it out of the park with this trailer. There has already been a lot of great information revealed about this game, specifically about Saga Anderson, including her backstory, her gameplay, her mind palace, etc, etc. All of it has been awesome, but this trailer has to take the cake for me in terms of epic reveals and Easter eggs for us to analyze into the ground. With all that said, let's get into it. What exactly is going on in the Alan Wake 2 Dark Place trailer? What information can we glean? What mysteries are beginning to unfold? How many freaking Alans are there in this game anyway? Let's talk about it. So I'm going to dive right in. At the start of the trailer, we see a darkened alleyway in what is clearly the Dark Place's twisted manifestation of New York City, based on Alan Wake's Alex Casey crime novels. In even this dark and unclear shot, we have multiple details to take note of. The first is the two shadowy figures standing at the end of the alley. These are most likely some of the Taken, or at least some form of darkness adversary, which will be further confirmed in a moment. On the left, we can see words tagged on the wall. This first word is hard to make out. It could say Alan, or author, or possibly even alien or hallow, but I can't quite tell. If you think you know, tell me your theory in the comments below. The other words are a bit clearer. The top one is definitely cult, which makes sense with the deer-faced cult serving as one of the major adversaries of the game. The bottom word appears to be word, oddly enough, although it could also be the word hard. I can't quite tell with the middle word. It could be gate, but I'm not sure. As the light comes on, we get a brief but much clearer glimpse of the two shadows at the end of the alley, and it looks like they are wearing ponchos or raincoats of some kind. This makes it seem like the two figures are members of the cult, as this is how they were dressed in the previous trailer. However, this raises some questions. Are members of the cult able to exist in the real world and the Dark Place simultaneously, or do they manifest themselves as part of Alan's imagination and fear of the cult? After all, the Dark Place works on dream logic, so whatever Alan's nightmares can conjure up will appear as his enemy. The next shot quickly zooms in, and we see the two figures disappear into smoke, confirming that they are darkness beings that can't exist in the light. At the end of the alley, we see the words "Don't Write" tagged on the wall, which is clearly a message for our hero. Remember this because it will come back later. There are other words tagged on the walls, but I can't quite make them out. The next shot is also very brief, but once again, rich in detail and mystery. We see a fully tagged up wall with multiple messages on it. The immediate standout is the phrase "around and around" at the bottom of the wall. This could be in reference to the cyclical nature of the battle with the darkness, as Thomas Zane and Alan Wake are seemingly locked into this unending conflict. Or it could be referring to Alan's repeated attempts to escape the Dark Place that have all ended in failure. Alan is essentially a rat in a maze, unable to find his way out, going around and around. Whatever the message may be, it's unsettling. Next, we see the phrase "You Are Us" tagged everywhere in different sizes and styles. This could be talking about how Mr. Scratch and Alan share the same face, saying that Alan is essentially the reason the cult exists. Or it could be a reference to something that happens later in the trailer, which we will talk about in a bit. Or it could even be the mantra of the cult, stating that everyone is part of the darkness and there is no escape. There are two other details that I noticed on this wall. One is the symbol of the cult over here. The two upside-down triangles could represent the astral plane and the Dark Place existing in the same space, since the board is represented by the upside-down pyramid. Or it could be the more general idea I've seen online about doors to different worlds existing side by side. Also, is it just me, or does the cult symbol look suspiciously like a butterfly this time around? Lastly, on the far right, you could see the word "die" thrown in there for good measure. I mean, it is a horror game after all. Next, we see an empty street in the Dark Place. While there isn't that much going on here, there is still one interesting detail to note. Far in the background, you could see a poster that says Night Springs, attached to what looks like a scaffolding. Beneath this, it looks like it says in very tiny letters, "New series coming soon." As the original Alan Wake established, Alan was once a staff writer on the show Night Springs, and Alan Wake's American Nightmare is revealed to be based on one of the scripts he wrote for the show. In addition, during Alan's conversation with the man claiming to be Thomas Zane in Control's AWE DLC, the Night Springs logo briefly appears on the TV screen before a shot of Dr. Darling. During this scene, Thomas Zane talks about how Alan had a way out of the Dark Place, how he had discovered a way to escape. But Alan doesn't remember. Perhaps this new method of escape has something to do with the new Night Springs series coming soon to the Dark Place. We'll have to wait and see. The next shot is where things get very strange. Your eyes are probably immediately drawn to Ilka Vili's beautiful face on multiple TV screens. I know mine were. But this is a distraction from what's really going on over here. On the right, we see posters for an upcoming Dark Place Films production called Nightless Night. There is a lot going on with this poster. First of all, this is a film by Thomas Zane, or however you want to pronounce that, which is clearly meant to be a Finnish take on Thomas Zane, or at least on Alan's filmmaking double, who claims to be Zane. Zane made this movie in partnership with Veikko Allen, which is most likely a Finnish version of the name Alan Wake. These are not direct translations, but phonetically similar. This poster could also be in reference to the way of escape that Thomas Zane was speaking of in AWE. There are other names on this poster, such as Alexi Kesa, which is clearly meant to be Alex Casey, but the biggest standout is of course the music by Ahti and the Janitors. Now we know that Ahti the Janitor is capable of traveling through dimensions, and we know he vacations in the town of Watery, which we will be exploring in this game. But what does he have to do with this Dark Place Films production? Also, the tagline for the film is difficult to make out, but I believe it says something along the lines of the meat or possibly the heart of the murderer was a crown sitting on his head, or something along those lines. No idea what this means, but it is quite interesting. Also, this poster appears to be plastered on top of another poster for an Alex Casey film adaptation, which also made an appearance in an Instagram post from Sam Lake. Other Alex Casey movies were also posted by the Alan Wake account. Casey is clearly playing a large role in this story, but is he real or a creation of Alan's mind brought into reality? Next, we see a classic Remedy montage of distorted images as Alan attempts to work on the manuscript in the cabin. He is clearly struggling, but is still rudely interrupted by another Alan? Before we talk about him, note the door that this other Alan has burst through. It has the spiral symbol on it, which of course is the symbol for the door leading to the Dark Place in the Ocean View Motel, or hotel in this game. Jessie was unable to walk through this door because she had not come out of it. So where did this other Alan come from? More importantly, who is this other Alan? This is the big question posed by this trailer. Which Alan is the real Alan? I'm not even sure we will be playing as the real Alan, at least not for the entirety of the story. There are a number of people that could have the face of Alan Wake. The first is obviously Alan himself, the second is Mr. Scratch, the third is the fake Thomas Zane, and the fourth is actually a 2-for-1, Mad Alan and Sane Alan. In the DLC episodes for the original Alan Wake, it was established that when Alan lost his mind in the Dark Place, he could potentially split into two, with what was left of his rational mind having to fight its way through the Dark Place in order to reunite with Mad Alan in the cabin. This could be exactly what's happening in this scene, but in reverse. We could be seeing Mad Alan forcing his way into the cabin, shooting Sane Alan, causing him to be forcefully ejected from the cabin. There are other aspects of this trailer that suggest this could be the case, but let's keep going in chronological order to make it easier on ourselves. Or at least on me. Before this scene ends, we get an extremely short glimpse of a bloody-faced Alan, very similar to what we saw at the end of the first teaser, except this time it's in live action, which makes it even creepier in my opinion. After Alan is seemingly shot, we get a series of short images, including an ad for Coffee World with the actor Peter Franzen, who we know will be playing two characters in the game, Ilmo and Jaakko Koskela. One of these characters at least appears to be an ambassador for Coffee World. Next, we see a brief glimpse of Alan in Mr. Door's studio, seemingly still reacting to the gunshot, which makes me think that this montage of strange TV images is what Alan goes through whenever he is forced out of the cabin. Next, we have two even briefer shots, one of Mr. Door looking very ominous, and the other is a very creepy shot of one of the deer-faced cultists. After all of this, Alan wakes up, pun intended, in Mr. Door's studio, checking to see if he has a gunshot wound to the head, which makes me believe even more that Mad Alan did in fact kick Sane Alan out of the cabin. We then see Alan enter the TV and seamlessly become his live-action self on Mr. Door's late-night talk show, In Between with Mr. Door. Mr. Door was originally introduced in Control through Dylan's creepy ramblings, but the character is clearly meant to be a take on Mr. Hatch from Quantum Break. Even though Remedy can't use Quantum Break in this story, and Lance Reddick has sadly passed on, it's cool to see some Quantum Break DNA in Alan Wake 2. David Harewood was a fantastic choice to play this character, both in terms of his look and his acting chops. Next, we see Alan looking stressed and confused as he tries to get on the show stage, as I'm sure we all would be if at the last minute we realized we were going to be on a talk show. Alan and Mr. Dorr begin chatting about Alan's new book while sipping from Oh Dear Diner mugs. The book in question is called Initiation, and beneath it says the long-awaited sequel to Departure. The hero's journey consists of 3 stages: departure, initiation, and return. As has been established in past Remedy games, it is strange that Alan chose to omit initiation and tried to immediately skip to return. This is most likely the reason that Alan has been unsuccessful in his escape attempts. He didn't want to go through the initiation, he just wanted to return home already, which makes sense. However, there may be more to the problem with the return manuscript than meets the eye, which we will get into in a bit. We then see Alan watching himself write on a bunch of TVs, which seems pretty standard, but there are a couple of interesting details to note. One is that on these TVs, Alan is not wearing his new suit. He is wearing his classic look from the first game, which made a reappearance in the AWE DLC. Are these shots from the past, or are they shots of the real Alan? Are we playing as the real Alan at all in this game? Also, before the scene changes, we catch a short glimpse of Alan being replaced on the screen with this strange-looking ball. Could just be the TV glitching, but it is interesting. We then see Alan using an old-timey projector to project a live-action image of himself on the screen. The projector says "Play Me" on the side, suggesting it was left there specifically for Alan. Alan then merges with the image on the screen, seemingly ending up in the Ocean View Hotel, in similar fashion to how Jesse uses paintings and the light cord to enter the Ocean View Motel. We get a brief shot of room 665, the neighbor of the beast, which is a classic Remedy reference, and could be the room Alan is staying in during what I can only describe as a drugged-up psychedelic montage. We see Alan laughing on the phone, a person holding a camera that quickly turns into a finger gun, and then we see Alan struggling to reach his typewriter and keep writing. Is Alan actually on hallucinogens in this scene, or is it just his fractured memories playing out that way? The next scene shows Saga and Casey interviewing Alan, asking him if he wrote the manuscript, but he doesn't remember. There are 2 problems with this scenario. One is that Saga is in the real world, and we have been led to believe that the only version of Alan in the real world is Mr. Scratch. 2 is that Alan is in his American Nightmare outfit, which also made an appearance in the return Easter egg from Quantum Break. This adds further uncertainty to who the real Alan is. How could Alan be in the real world if he never escaped? Why is he in his clothes that were created from a memory and only used in a non-canon story? But here's the real kicker. It is strongly implied in Quantum Break that the Alan in the American Nightmare clothes is the real Alan and the other is Mr. Scratch. Could this mean that Alan has escaped the dark place, but his mind is so broken that his personality remains split? The next moment seems to add more evidence to this theory, as we see Alan walking down a dark place alleyway, looking kind of scary, and right next to him we could see the word Scratch tagged on the wall. Immediately after this, we see Alan confronted by Alex Casey in the dark place. Is this Casey real or just a figment? If Casey is real, how did he get into the dark place? Casey accuses Alan of being the killer/cult leader, and Alan looks very angry while he does so. This could just be frustration with being falsely accused, but Alan almost looks like he wants to kill Casey. And if the return Easter egg is to be believed, Casey is in fact killed by Mr. Scratch at some point, which once again makes me wonder if this Alan is actually Mr. Scratch. Also, the dialogue playing here sounds more like a conversation between Casey and the Alan in the real world who doesn't remember if he wrote the pages. Could just be a sound mixing thing, I don't know, it sounds off to me. We then see Alan looking at the manuscript for Return and being very confused, as if he didn't write it. This could be similar to the first game where he just doesn't remember, but something happens in a moment that makes me doubt that. We see Alan desperately trying to break down a door to escape a Sam Raimi-esque camera monster, which is of course super cool and creepy, but the big moment comes after this, as we see Alan scratching out his name on the Return manuscript. Let me say that again. He is scratching out his name. Scratch. You get it? Mr. Scratch might have written this draft of Return, not the real Alan. At least that seems to be what the trailer is suggesting. In the next moment, we see real-world Alan looking very confused and saying it's my fault it got out. This could be a reference to Mr. Scratch or the darkness, but I think this is actually a reference to the hiss from Control. In AWE, it is implied that Alan wrote the hiss into the story as a threat for Jesse to face. Why would Alan do something so horrible as potentially creating the hiss unless he was influenced into doing so? I'm starting to feel more confident that the fake Thomas Zane, who claims to be a filmmaker helping Alan escape, is in fact Mr. Scratch, and he tricked Alan into writing not a manuscript, but a screenplay. I believe this is why there are so many movie posters, and why Thomas Zane is claiming to be a filmmaker. Return is a horror movie. Also, Alan Wake's American Nightmare took place in an episode of Night Springs, and the plot boiled down to Alan using a movie projector, projecting a film made by his wife in order to defeat Mr. Scratch. Lots of movie and film-related themes to be found here. I believe that the Return screenplay was made to release Mr. Scratch and the hiss so that the darkness and the resonance could consume the real world. Dr. Hartman in AWE confirmed that it is in fact possible for the hiss and the darkness to combine into a single terrifying creature. If Mr. Scratch, the Herald of Darkness, gained the power of the evil resonance of the hiss, then he would be one of, if not the most powerful being in the multiverse. Truly a worthy final boss fight for this game, and I really hope it happens. Now the trailer goes full speed ahead, and we see a number of images offering us even more tantalizing clues about the game's narrative and gameplay. For starters, we see Saga in her mind place, trying to put together the mystery of Alan Wake's double. During this, we see a flash of Alan in the background, very reminiscent of how Alan appeared in the Return Easter egg, reading over the clues Saga and Casey had discovered thus far. Next, we see Alan approaching what looks like a train station information booth, but then reality shifts. The room now has neon lights forming the cult symbol. The wall seemingly has a version of the spiral painted on it, and while the information booth remains, there is now a solitary podium in front of it. Not sure what's going on here, but it definitely points to the shifting nature of the dark place. Next up, we get to see Alan fighting with light on a rooftop with a neon sign that has the letters RS at the end. In addition to it being awesome to see Alan in action again, I wonder what this sign says. It could just be an unimportant background detail, but Remedy doesn't really do things without intention. Not sure what it says though. Let me know what you think in the comments. After this, we see Saga fighting off Taken with a flare in classic Alan Wake fashion. She also has a crossbow on her back, a weapon introduced in American Nightmare. Next, we see Alan in what looks like a dark subway tunnel. However, it is only a wall painted to look like a subway tunnel. More on that in a moment. On this wall, we can see a number of interesting details. On the left, we can see the word Scratch tagged in big letters, confirming that Alan's dark double still has a presence in the dark place. In the middle, we can see that the subway sign says, "Don't sleep again," possibly in reference to Alan's sane self being separated from the rest of him. On the right, we can see the words, "You lost," tagged on the wall, as well as the cult symbol and a shadowy figure, most likely representing a Taken. The words "you lost" could be referring to Alan's double already escaping the dark place, or maybe the word "are" is in there somewhere and it says "you are lost." The big detail to note here is Alan's use of the light bulb wand that was revealed in the original teaser. When the wand is activated and lights up, the world goes from being an artistic impression of a subway tunnel to an actual subway tunnel. The sign also changes and now says, "Stop writing Wake." For a while now, Remedy has said that Alan's reality-altering powers would reach a whole new level in the sequel, and this clearly shows us that Alan at least has some influence on the shape that the dark place takes. It is based on his imagination, after all. Also, since the subway has made multiple appearances in Alan Wake 2 teasers, perhaps it will be one of the ways that Alan navigates the dark place. Next, we see real-world Alan fighting a cultist Taken, flashlight and rifle in hand. Does this mean we will also be playing as at least some version of Alan in Saga's campaign? Also, seeing Alan fighting in his American Nightmare clothes makes me even more desperate for an American Nightmare remaster. Please, Remedy, now is the time. Anyway, we see Dark Place Alan standing in what could be Mr. Door's studio audience theater, or in one of the movie theaters playing the creepy movie we saw the poster for earlier. Alan is standing there with his revolver and shotgun, surrounded by what appears to be an outline of Alex Casey. We hear audio of Alan begging to be written out of the story, possibly hinting that Alan is now ready to give up and be written out of existence, just like Thomas Zane. But who exactly is Alan asking to write him out of the story? Zane? Mr. Scratch? Himself? Next, we see Saga moving through the woods and seemingly catching a glimpse of the dark place. She appears to be looking down a subway tunnel. You could see the faint outline of the tracks at the bottom of the screen. The doors at the end of the tunnel could be the next platform, but I'm not sure. We then get a brief shot of Alan looking absolutely terrified. This looks like the same scene as Casey confronting Alan. Could this be after Casey is dead? Did Alan kill Casey without realizing it, and now he is staring in horror at what he has done? Finally, we come to the end of the trailer, and yet there are still some really awesome details to make note of. We see this TV sitting in the middle of a dark room. I noticed that in this shot, the placement of the desk beneath the windows makes the cabin wall kind of look like a cassette tape or a videotape. Might be nothing, but it's an interesting shot composition. As the camera zooms in on the TV, we hear a familiar whispering in the background, which sounds a lot like the Hiss chant. That's right, this is seemingly a confirmation of the Hiss's presence in Alan Wake 2. Not that there was ever much doubt about this. As the scene goes on, we see Alan looking pretty insane on the screen, similar to how he acted when he was Mad Alan in the DLC episodes. Also, the TV brand seemingly says Luminista, which means luminary or a bringer of light, specifically the light of knowledge. Makes sense given the game's subject matter. Then, we see Alan doing the crane pose, Karate Kid style, on his desk, approximating the position of the stuffed owl above him. Very creepy. And lastly, we see Alan in what appears to be the same train station from earlier, maybe even the same train tunnel Saga was peering into. The podium is still there, but is now moved to the middle of the tracks. You can also see the cult symbol at the top of the tunnel, as well as the neon lights from earlier. There is also a great wave of sound, causing all of the surrounding papers to move and blast towards Alan, heavily suggesting that Alan will be facing Hiss-based enemies over the course of the game. Epic! Alright, that's all I got for the trailer, guys, and as you can see, there is a lot going on here. I did my best to be as thorough as possible, but I'm sure I missed something in there somewhere. If you have anything I missed, or a different interpretation of something I noticed, or any crazy theories you want to share, let me know in the comments below. In addition, you may have heard that Shawn Ashmore is going to be in Alan Wake 2, even though Remedy has confirmed that Quantum Break is not in the Remedy universe, which of course makes my heart very sad. However, the inclusion of Shawn immediately made my heart glad again. Shawn will be playing a character named Sheriff Tim Breaker, which of course works on two levels. One is that Breaker is the last name of the previous Sheriff of Bright Falls, Sarah Breaker, an awesome character from the original Alan Wake. Also, we know that Frank Breaker, Sarah's dad, was an agent of the Federal Bureau of Control, which gives Sarah and Tim a connection to Jesse Faden, which is of course awesome. The other interesting thing about Shawn Ashmore's character's name is that it's Tim Breaker. As in Time Breaker, as in Quantum Break. Remedy thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Okay, that's the last thing I could think of for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you could look forward to a lot of great stuff coming soon. You're probably aware that there's a lot of gameplay out for Alan Wake 2 now as well, so you can expect a breakdown or at least a reaction very soon. As always, I'm so glad to share my masterful thoughts with you. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming masterful content. There's a lot coming soon, more Alan Wake stuff. I'm still working on my new Final Fantasy videos, and I'm so excited to get everything to you as soon as life will allow me to. Stuff happens, but I'm doing my best, and I thank you so much for being on this journey with me. Alright, that's all for now. God bless you guys. I'll catchphrase you later, and this mantra keeps me going. Alan Wake 2 is coming on October 27th, 2023. Bye!